There is no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. Carl Jung. Quazi here. Today, I want to introduce you to a concept that once understood fully will completely change how you live, act, and actually create results in the real world. For a moment right now, I want you to think about all of the struggles that you've been facing, the patterns that you just can't seem to break, and the potential that always feels just out of reach. What you're going to notice, if you really think about it, is that these patterns have repeated throughout your whole life, ever since you were a child. What you'll also notice is that these patterns stem from one main cause: your refusal to accept a certain part of yourself. Carl Jung discovered that within every single human being, there are archetypes that secretly govern our lives. There's the persona, the mask that we wear to fit in. There's the anima and the animus, the feminine and the masculine energies driving how we feel, create, and actually connect. And there's the hero, the part of us that strives to rise, conquer, and actually overcome. But behind all of them lies the most misunderstood archetype of them all: the shadow. The place where your deepest fears, your hidden desires, and your untapped potential actually live. Now, most people think that the shadow is the dark side that they've been told to avoid their whole lives, but this couldn't be further from the truth. The truth is, the shadow is the missing half of your wholeness. And once you learn to face it, to actually integrate it, you're going to find the very key to power, to success, to peace that you've actually been searching for. Now, I've talked about shadow work before, but in today's video, we're going to go deep. First, you're going to learn the different layers of your mind and how it makes up your whole being. Next, you're going to learn your shadow side and how to actually bring it into light. And finally, you're going to learn a method to unblock an energetic chakra the yogis called the anahata, the heart chakra. This is the final block before your energies can rise to your crown chakra, your highest point, and you finally achieve full integration with your shadow. Now, I really want you to watch this in full and actually follow the exercises that I'm going to share with you here, because I can guarantee you that you won't be the same after this. So with that, let's get started with the first part, the different layers of the mind. So in order to understand shadow work and how it actually works, we have to understand the different aspects of mind that we all have. At the most surface level, we have the conscious mind, your conscious faculties daily. 5% of it is our whole being. Next, we have the subconscious mind, slightly below the conscious mind. That's another 5%. You're aware of it, but you're not aware of it. The remaining is the personal unconscious. The remaining 90% is the personal and the collective unconscious, which has largely been shaped by society, people around us. We have collectively contributed to it. The unconscious mind, the personal unconscious, is very important to understand because it typically reflects any deficits we have with our conscious. So for example, if you're someone who feels inferior, what you'll start to notice is you'll have dreams of superiority where you start to have congregations with very, very high people in their fields. Like you might have dinner with Einstein and a meeting with Napoleon Bonaparte, or other celebrities that you can think of. And that happens because your unconscious is trying to tell, it's just basically trying to balance you out, okay? So what most people do is they're very, very unaware of what's happening with the unconscious, and so they can't truly follow their intuition. And this is where the shadow side comes in, because we keep suppressing that shadow side within our unconscious until one day it just explodes and we just lose all control of ourselves. And that's something I would like to not happen for you. And part of Carl Jung's work is about the goal. The goal is individuation, which is reaching absolute harmony with each and every single part of ourselves, with the hero, the animus anima, the shadow, the conscious, the ego, okay? So the shadow plays a very, very important role in this. And for most people, they have a gross misunderstanding of the shadow, or what the shadow is, because we've been told to embody a certain part of ourselves. So the very first thing we have to understand is the concept of identity shifting, which I've taught my over 1,000 clients how to do, how to shift into the version of yourself you were truly meant to be, okay? So when most people think about something like identity shifting, they think they must be someone else. They must become someone else to experience what they want. And where this concept of identity shifting comes in is the being, which leads to doing, which finally leads to having. When we be who we were meant to be, we do what we were meant to do, and we have what we were meant to have. So for a lot of people, they struggle to achieve their goals because the goals that they're trying to achieve weren't meant for them. I want you to really think about this. The reason why you feel like it's such a battle to achieve your goals, and this took me a very long time to understand, by the way. I was always battling against an invisible force. And why this happened was because I was trying to achieve someone else's goal. So for most people, they're taught to go to school, get a great degree, find a safe job, stay at that job for the next 40 years of your life, and then you will retire and get to live your life. That's the narrative I was told, and that was what was stored in my collective unconscious because of societal expectations. For 99% of people, that is not the right path. For 99% of people, going that traditional 9-to-5 route is not the right path. For 1%, sure. For a certain individual, that is the perfect path. That is their dream. That is amazing, wonderful. But for most people, it's not. But most people are afraid to own who they were really meant to be. And there's a great quote from a book I read called Relentless by Tim Grover. And Tim Grover says, in order to have what you really want, you must first be who you really are. For me, once I realized this, I had the life that was beyond my wildest dreams. So to recap my story, back in 2019, I was supposed to go that traditional 9-to-5 route and be miserable. But I took a leap and started this business where I started making YouTube videos, sharing what I wanted to share, and people started to reach out to me for coaching. And I was very, very afraid to do that because who was I, some 20-year-old kid making these videos online? And I didn't even want to make videos. I was like very timid and shy. And I was like, what gives me the right to make these videos? So it was very, very uncomfortable for me to do this, right? Because I wasn't initially qualified to, or I didn't feel qualified to do this. What I did know was the engineering degree that I got in college and to pursue an engineering job. That's what I felt qualified to do. But this felt like the right thing for me to do because this was who I really was, sharing my message, having a public persona and speaking. That's who I really was, but I just didn't feel comfortable owning it because this isn't who I was accustomed to being. I was accustomed to being someone society told me to be. Be safe, protect yourself, don't take risks, conserve the little money that you have in your bank account, just hold on to it. Just be afraid, be deathly afraid. Anything can happen. Oh, you're going through, society's going through this. Economically, times are bad. Protect, protect, protect. Don't take risks. And so I had to change, I had to identity shift to being and becoming who I was meant to be. Do you understand the difference? Most of you, when you study personal development, what you think is, oh, I am a lazy piece of shit and I need to be someone different. Oh, I'm not confident and something about me is damaged. I am damaged. I need to be someone different. No, you don't. You actually, the only different person you need to be is who you were meant to be. Okay? That's the only difference. You've got to become who you're meant to be to have what you truly, truly want. So when I gave myself permission to own who I was being and own my deficiencies, shortcomings, and be vulnerable and authentic to them, guess what happened? Within 4 years of starting that business, not only did I make over $1 million every single year, I also found the partner of my dreams, got married to her, have a baby now, and now we're living in beautiful sunny South Florida. We have 2 houses. Like my life right now, I couldn't have imagined this. I thought I'd be in a job at this age and, trying to save up for my first house or something, trying to secure a mortgage or something, but now I have more money than I know what to do with. And I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying this is truly what's possible when you allow yourself to become who you're meant to be. Like the goal that I set for myself when I started on this journey was just barely making 20K a month. And I've way surpassed that. And anything that ever imagined I was capable of. Why is this possible? It's only possible when you truly own who you're meant to be. I know I'm saying this a lot of times, but I cannot say this enough. I can't say this enough because most people will hear this, it'll go in through one ear and out the other, right? They'll never truly internalize this. They'll never truly give themselves permission to be who they were meant to be. You have to give yourself permission to be who you're meant to be. So at first, when you're being who you're meant to be, this is where people actually get lost because at first it feels fake. At first, it will feel fake. It will feel unnatural for you to be who you're meant to be, but it will feel like the right thing to do. It will feel uncomfortable, but it will feel like the right thing to do. That's how you know you're on the right path. The other way that you know that you're on the right path is if you feel less drained at the end of the day. Because for most people, they get this thing called persona fatigue, okay? They get persona fatigue. Why does this happen? Well, this happens simply due to the mere fact that you are trying to be someone you're not. You're trying to embody someone you weren't meant to be. Your shadow side is suppressed. It's not finding expression. And by the third part of this video, I'm going to share with you how to unleash the shadow side, which is going to completely change everything for you. How you experience life is going to be completely different. You're going to experience a level of freedom you've never experienced. But for now, just understand that when you embody who you're truly meant to be, it expends the least amount of energy. When you become who you are meant to be, it's actually the most effortless to be in that state of being. If you feel like you are drained around your dad, your mom, or your friends, whatever it is, it's because you're trying to be someone you're not. You're trying to put on a facade. You're trying to put on a face. You're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And that's exactly why you're not experiencing what you want. It's as simple as that. So the key I want you to take away from this is the very first step to unleashing your shadow self, to shifting into the version of you you were meant to be, is to stop suppression. What do I mean by that? When you have opinions and things that you think and feel and believe, allow yourself to express them. If what you think is true will hurt people's feelings, don't be afraid to live your truth. Don't be afraid to express your truth just because, and I'm not saying like you just publicly go out and do it, but for example, if you've been someone who's a people pleaser your whole life and you've been a yes man, but you know that saying what you truly feel is authentic, it's real to you, you gotta say it. Because guess what? The other person might not like it, but they will respect you. They will respect you a lot more than if you had just lied again and just tried to people please, and you just became a yes man again. So sometimes when you feel like, hey, this option actually isn't right for me, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and express your opinion. And don't judge yourself for it. Because the more you keep things suppressed, guess what happens? It gets repressed and it goes into your unconscious. Then it starts to act out in ways in which you wouldn't like. In psychosomatic ailments, through this psychological pressure that develops, and it's just going to create unintended consequences in your life, okay? And that's something we don't want. So the very first step is to stop suppression and to stop judgment. Any form of self-judgment. Allow yourself to be who you really are. If you have a negative thought, a lot of people when they get started in this personal development journey, they're afraid of their own thoughts. How absurd is that? You're afraid of this negative thought that came up. You don't have to feed it. It's just a thought. You can simply observe it and let it be. You let that thought exist as it is without trying to change it. Don't try to focus on positives and try to get rid of it. Allow yourself to have negative thoughts. Allow yourself to have negative feelings. You are allowed to think, feel, and be this way temporarily. You don't have to bother with it because that's not who you chose to be, okay? And that's the crucial part of you becoming who you are meant to be, is accepting without trying to change anything. Just be as you are and drop that armor, which very, very nicely leads to the second part of this process of unleashing your true self, learning to become vulnerable and learning to become authentic. Let's get to that right now. Vulnerability. This is one of the most important words that completely changed my life this year. And the reason why that is because I realized that even though I was saying that I'm being authentic and I'm being vulnerable, I actually wasn't. And what happened was, back when I was around 13 years old, I lived in the UK and I got bullied as a kid. And I got bullied because I was freely expressing my opinion, and I was kind of just, if people were being idiots, I was just straight up calling them idiots without a lack of social awareness. And so, they started bullying me, and so then over time I morphed into this version that was kind of a people pleaser who just fit in. I just became who people wanted me to be. Okay, I became the charming kind of version that I had to be to have women like me and men want to be like me. That's what I strive to be my whole life, so that I could fit in and be part of the masses. That's literally it. I just wanted to shine. And so because of that, what I realized was I always had a tough time developing deep friendships, but I always had a desire to form deep friendships. But the reason I couldn't was because I always kept everyone at arm's length. And here's why. Here's the fucked up reason why. It's because I had a tough time letting people into my circle because I was afraid they would find out who I truly am and then see that I'm a fraud, right? And if they found out that I was a fraud, then people would reject me and I would go back to that old way that I was when I got bullied. And that actually had trickle-down effects into my relationship. I had a tough time letting my wife in and being vulnerable with her because I had to give off this image of being a strong masculine man so that I could be the leader of this in this relationship, instead of allowing myself to be vulnerable in moments of weakness. And by the way, one of the greatest sources of shame, I learned this from Brene Brown from a book called The Power of Vulnerability. If you read it, I highly recommend that you do. For men, the greatest source of shame is weakness. For women, the greatest source of shame is their appearance, right? Like not looking good. For women, they have to be superwoman, you know, get everything done and look smoking hot while doing it, right? Which is unrealistic. And for men, the one thing they can't do is be a weak man. Don't be a weak man. You gotta man up, you know, and sack up, right? There's always that saying. But because I had that ingrained within me in my unconscious, I had to be a strong man. Otherwise, I would let my family down, you know, let my wife down, let my kid down, and everyone down. And then when I realized the power of vulnerability and the negative consequences it had of me keeping my wife at arm's length, we would constantly have fights, especially after having a kid. This came to light. We would constantly have fights. There was always a communication issue. And by the way, in relationships, as you know, man, woman, like if a man is feeling a certain way, the woman can tell because she's more intuitive. But going even deeper into that, if a woman can't sense what the man is feeling because they're not being authentic, they're not being vulnerable, they don't feel safe in the relationship, okay? They feel uncertain and they feel stressed out. So when you become vulnerable, you actually create a safe space for both people in the relationship, okay? So when I started doing that, our relationship actually became a lot more fulfilling, and I started to notice that I stopped being stressed. My wife became a great source of power to me. Okay, and so the quality of my life drastically changed. Not just to mention like every single other area of my life. My business started doing better, you know. I actually became a millionaire after I met my wife. Fun fact. I was broke before my wife and I met, and you know, she wasn't even my girl. Like I just didn't have a girlfriend and she became my girlfriend. I started my business in 2019 when we were together. And then with her, I saw this business, you know, go to over $1 million a year. And so this kind of like gave me epiphanies like, hey, she balances me somehow, but I never really utilized this until my coach told me like, hey, your wife is actually a great source of power, but you're not utilizing it. You have this like great immense source of power that you're just not utilizing because you're afraid. You're afraid to let your guard down and your armor because you believe that you have to be this strong man. And it's actually being a hamper. It's blocking you from getting to that next level in your evolution. So for me, learning about vulnerability was a great lesson. But what we don't understand is how to become vulnerable because we mistake two main things, shame and guilt. So what happens is when we do something bad, for most people who are in shame, they say, oh fuck, I fucked up again. I'm a bad person. So Brene Brown in her book, The Power of Vulnerability, gives this example of a woman gets drunk Thursday night. Friday morning, she has a big meeting. She goes in hungover, she's late. Client meeting missed. In the first situation, she says, I'm such a fuck up. I'm a piece of shit. That's shame. In the second situation, she says, I missed this client meeting. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I could do something so stupid. It's tied to a behavior. I did something stupid, not I am stupid. I did something stupid is guilt. I am stupid is shame. Shame is something that brings us to the lowest of all pits. If you look at this level of consciousness, you'll see that shame is much lower than guilt. I believe, you know, I might be incorrect, but from what I understand, shame is way lower than guilt. And in shame, we actually lead to a lot of negative repercussions. Like shame is apparently directly correlated to addiction. When people are in shame, it leads to a lot more cases of addiction, whereas in guilt, you have power to transmute up to the higher levels. In shame, you're stuck. When you feel shame and you're self-inflicting blame, you're identifying as the kind of person who does this, guess what? In this being, doing, having, if we go back to this, you're basically saying, I am stupid. So if you identified as someone who's stupid, you're going to do stupid things and you're going to have stupid outcomes. But then if you just stop it right here and you say, you know what? I'm not stupid. I made a mistake. I did something stupid. So your identity, you cut it off right here, right? You don't identify with it any longer. So in order for us to become more and more vulnerable, we have to learn to disidentify from the labels that we've created. Because once you identify with the label that you've created, you immediately take on those characteristics. You immediately become that kind of person. Okay? So the goal isn't to just disidentify, it's to create conscious identification. If you consciously identify with someone who is, I am stupid, well, no one consciously chooses to identify with that, right? It happens unconsciously. You keep telling yourself the story. Whereas most of the time we unconsciously identify with this. So if I want to create the version of me that I want to become, I have to know what I'm choosing to identify with and choosing to disidentify with. Okay, so when I choose to identify with who I was meant to be, the Quazi, the authentic Quazi that I was meant to be, and disidentify with, I'm stupid, I'm an idiot. That's when you start to live a life where you can truly have what you want. So the goal is to create conscious identification. And so when we get to this third part, learning to unleash your shadow self, this is why it's going to change the game for you. So let's get to that right now. But before I get to that real quick, I wanted to announce that our Reality Creator Academy, a lot of you have been asking about enrollment, but we typically close it. We launch it once every 3 months, but temporarily I have opened up the gates to it. So you can just go to realitycreator.com/RCA to find out the details of the Academy. There's a video in there that explains everything. If it resonates with you, you want to be part of this community to learn more about everything that I talk about on my channel, you can just go to this link and I would love to see you in the community. We're just going to leave it open for a limited time until this video airs. So I will see you in there, and let's get right to part 3, the most important part. Learning to unleash your shadow self. So now we get to the fun part. Something that's going to change your life forever. An exercise that's going to change everything for you. Unleashing your shadow self. So the exercise is to create this shadow side, or rather to discover the shadow side of you and to bring it to light. Because remember, our goal is individuation, getting to a point where we feel stable, whole. I like to tell my clients, you become a walking sigh of relief. You're not holding onto pains all the time. You're not trying to suppress and hide and, not be seen by the world, but you stand naked and you are as you are, and you're comfortable being as you are. You have nothing to hide. Okay? You just are. You're not afraid of being seen anymore. So, in order to do this, all you have to do is get your notes section, because this is going to be an exercise that you're going to develop, something that's going to develop over the next 2 weeks. So get your phone, get the notes section, and create, and you may want to password protect it or not, depending on who goes to your phone, but create a shadow document, okay? Shadow, character, whatever it is you want to title. And what you want to do is create a list of characteristics, attitudes, and actions/behaviors. And we want to list 5 for each. So what kind of characteristics does your shadow self have? You want to observe it. And when you observe it, how you will know that this is your shadow self is because you're scared. You're kind of scared of this version. You're kind of scared of how, in a way, it might seem evil. It might seem like, oh my God, this is devious. I've never seen this part of myself, or I have, and I've always hidden it. I've always hid it under the surface. I never wanted people to see this part of myself. What is the part of you that you don't want people to see? Don't be ashamed of it. That's the nasty, evil part that you have to bring to the surface and become aware of. You don't have to show people right now, but you have to become aware of it, okay? We want to bring it to awareness. So you're going to list a few characteristics this shadow has, and a few attitudes the shadow has. So if you are naturally a critical, judgmental person and you like to compare everyone to everyone, don't be afraid of that. That is the attitude that it has. What kind of behaviors does it do? What kind of behaviors or actions do you take that you feel ashamed of? Bring those to light right now. And chances are, if you bring those to light, guess what? Shame can never thrive in a place of empathy. If you feel ashamed about something, the only way it can thrive is in silence, is in suppression. But if you bring it to light, to the light of empathy and awareness, it can no longer thrive. So this is why this exercise we're doing is so important and so powerful, okay? So go ahead and create this document and list as much as you can right now. And chances are you're going to discover more and more because now you've made the intention to discover the shadow self more. It's going to pop up. You're going to start having different dreams. You're going to start noticing different things in your environment. It is just going to happen. If you have to revisit this video, do so, okay? Now, for me, my shadow self has a very competitive drive. And what I notice is when I try to suppress that competitive drive, or when I get too consumed in it, I actually become a little bit depressed, okay? I kind of want to quit everything and leave. And, you know, I just lose all love for life. And for me, I look at everything as a game. And when I become this kind of shadow self, you know, when I get so identified, either too obsessed with it or too suppressed, which are both an issue, I notice that it leads to my self-destruction. So because I'm so competitive, I like to compare myself with others. You know, for example, I would feel insecure if I saw someone who's brand new on YouTube doing better than me, or someone who is a student of mine making more money than me in the past. That would hurt me a lot. That would like be a direct hit to my ego. And that's because it's this shadow self that views this as a game and looks at the numbers, the metrics, as a scorecard. But on the other hand, when I do get competitive, but I lose that competition, and I'm like, oh, what's the point of doing what I'm doing anymore? I'm not growing, nothing is moving forward. I don't have a metric for progress. And when that happens, I also get depressed. I'm like, oh, this isn't competitive enough anymore. This isn't fun anymore. I'm not playing a fun game anymore. So for me, when I suppress this competitive drive, it leads to suppression of this shadow self, and the obsession with it. Also, the shadow self, it overtakes a little too much. And the other selves, the other parts of me, the higher self, the ego, the feminine part of me, the animus, it also gets suppressed. So the important part is we have a balance of all of these selves within us, okay? So that we have a balance and we reach that state of equilibrium or individuation. Now, the other thing I noticed earlier this year is a classic symptom of your shadow self being suppressed is when you feel anxious all the time. If you are moving around, if you're, let's say, an entrepreneur like myself. I remember from April to June of this year, I had a big turnaround in the business. You know, employee turnaround, things happening, shit hitting the fan, you know, marketing slowing down. And it was kind of the worst few months of the business. And I became very, very anxious during that time. And I would wake up at like 3, 4 a.m. with a pit of anxiety in my stomach. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I can't sleep. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I just feel anxious all the time. I don't know what's going to happen in the business. I just want to keep checking my email, hoping, you know, things don't go too wrong, etc. Right? And so I would be very, very anxious about this. And I realized I was going into defense mode. This character was going into defense mode. When we become anxious and our shadow side is suppressed, we go into defense. We're just trying to protect. At those moments, you have to go offense. So when I started working with this coach and I learned to go into offense mode rather than defense mode, what happened was my shadow side found expression. And so my coach asked me, what would your shadow side do? What would Quazi shadow do in this instance? So you can even give your shadow side a name. So I would actually encourage that. Give your shadow side a name. And so he would ask, what would Quazi shadow do? Well, Quazi shadow wouldn't give a fuck. Business is hitting the fan? Great. Go and, you know, go take the day off and hang out and, you know, shoot the shit with your family. Quazi shadow doesn't give a fuck about these little things. It doesn't worry about stupid shit. And when I started to tap into more and more of that, I went to more and more offense mode, which is a direct cure for this defense mode problem, where you get into this state of anxiety and you're becoming too protective. You're becoming more gas/brake rather than all gas. So that's one of the keys I want you to take away. Be all gas or all brakes, not gas and the brake. You don't hit the gas and the brake at the same time. You either hit the gas or the brake. So know when to do what. And whatever it is you do, go all in and fully commit to that. So in a way, you're just committing to hitting one. Go all in on one instead of half committing to two, okay? And for the next 2 weeks, observe this shadow self. Observe this shadow part of you. What characteristics come up? Most people don't really understand what the shadow self is, nor do they understand how to bring it to light. You have to become you have to become hyper aware. Just observe your patterns. What are the things you're trying to run away from? What are the things you're trying to suppress and push down to the surface because you're too afraid to confront it? That is your shadow. Go all in. Go put the gas on instead of gas or brake. Okay, so now for this next part, we want to understand what actually blocks energy from moving within our bodies. And typically this happens because we're holding onto something subconsciously that no longer serves us. So when you feel anxious, nervous, or a blockage anywhere in your gut or your chest, typically there's an energetic block that's preventing the free flow of energy within your system, which then gets stored into your shadow. So in this next part, you're going to learn an ancient yogic technique to unblock the energy in your heart chakra so that you can complete this process of bringing your shadow to light. So let's get to that right now. I'd like to begin this video with a quote from this book that I read, which allowed me to have this epiphany. It's a book called Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And there's 3 main quotes in here that is going to make sense of what I'm about to share with you, and especially the meditation. So the first quote goes, "Words may help you understand something. Experience allows you to know. Yet there are some things that you cannot experience. So I have given you other tools of knowing, and these are called feelings." To give you a little bit of context, Conversations with God is about this person, Neale Donald Walsch, who goes through sort of a dark night of the soul. And upon going through that, he one day just says, "God, speak to me." And then he just picks up a pen and paper and starts writing, and this is what comes out. God is actually speaking to him. So the first quote goes, "Words may help you understand something. Experience allows you to know. Yet there are some things you cannot experience. So I've given you other tools of knowing. And these are called feelings." What the soul is after, the highest feeling of love that you can imagine, this is the soul's desire. This is its purpose. The soul is after the feeling. It already has the knowledge, but the knowledge is conceptual. Feeling is experiential. The soul wants to feel itself, and thus to know itself in its own experience. Another emphasis on the importance of feeling. Now, this final one is going to change everything. All human actions are motivated at their deepest level by 2 emotions, fear or love. In truth, there are only 2 emotions, only 2 words in the language of the soul. Fear wraps our bodies in clothing. Love allows us to stand naked. Fear clings to and clutches all that we have. Love gives all that we have away. Fear holds close. Love holds dear. Fear grasps. Love lets go. Fear rankles, love soothes. Fear attacks, love amends. From here you could see that there's basically the emphasis on feeling and how God speaks to us in feelings. Unfortunately, how we've been conditioned by society, everything around us, is to become more and more logical, more and more mind-centric. There is a special emphasis on people who are exceptionally logical, exceptionally rational. When you become so reliant on the mind, what happens is you're never able to hear the murmurs of the heart. And I remember this in my personal life. When I'm most connected to my intuition, these profound ideas and epiphanies start to come first thing in the morning or right before bed, at just odd times during the day. It's when the mind is quiet, I can really listen to the heart. And the highest source of knowledge, everything, all the greatest videos that I've had and all the ideas and epiphanies that I had that I was like, I can't wait to share this. That's when it came to me. When I had goals to get to certain revenue levels and solve certain problems that I was going through, all of a sudden the epiphanies, the solutions to those just came naturally to me when I was surrendered, when the mind was quiet. But what happens is from time to time, the mind just gets very, very loud. We get steeped in fear, in doubt, and anxiety. So the journey is to understand why this happens, how to mitigate it so we can bring ourselves back into balance and listen to the most divine source within us, our hearts. What you have to understand is it's actually the feeling that's producing thoughts. One feeling produces a multitude of thoughts to justify the presence of that feeling. I want you to think about something you're fearful of or anxious about. You're going to try to justify why you feel anxious. Oh, I feel anxious because I have a big tax bill. Oh, I feel anxious because I'm having some trouble with a client of mine in this business, or my boss, or my employer, or something is happening in my child's life. You're trying to justify that feeling of anxiety. But have you noticed that when you feel anxious, there's more things to feel anxious about? Have you noticed that? It's like now everything makes you anxious. Even things that you could just brush away, all of a sudden they make you anxious now. That's because energy is becoming stagnant within us. So in our body, we have these channels where energy flows called the energy meridians. But these meridians, if you imagine two channels, it's very, very subtle. It's not like you could open the body up and see these channels, but it's more so running along the spine. And these energy meridians become blocked because we hold on to things. We become attached to experiences, to feelings, to thoughts, and we hold on to them. We've almost in a certain way become addicted to feeling anxious or addicted to feeling like a victim because somehow we started to believe that it has allowed us to survive. I wrote this quote a long time ago. We struggle because we're addicted to the struggle. We don't give ourselves permission to be successful because we've told ourselves this story of, oh no, I'm the victim. Oh no, things never work out for me. Oh no, somehow I always get to the last step and get stuck. It's because we've told ourselves this story. It's a comfortable story. It's a familiar story. The human psyche is always afraid of the unknown. The mind is always afraid of the unknown. So we can never surrender the reins and just trust that everything is going to work out for us. It's difficult to do, especially when you've been like very secure and you've been trying to take the non-risky path and not take a big risk. But when you do that, you're actually sacrificing some of the greatest things that you could experience in your life if you don't take the risk. So energy becomes stagnant within these meridians. And in ancient yogic knowledge, Patanjali talked about this a very long time ago. We have 114 different chakras. Out of those, there are 7 foundational ones, 7 main ones, and they're located along the spine, from the root chakra to the crown chakra. What typically happens is where energy gets stuck, you'll notice is it's somewhere around the solar plexus area. When you feel anxious and doubtful about something, your energy is becoming stuck in that throat to stomach area. You know, you feel like a strong, stuck kind of sensation. Anytime you think about that thing, you feel that energy. It's trying to rise, but it gets stuck. The energy can't move. And stagnant energy is the #1 problem because energy has to flow. It's like a river. If a river or a lake doesn't flow, the water gets dirty and stagnant. Just like that, energy has to flow. Your meridians have to be free to experience life as it actually is, rather than what you would like it to be. To experience the greatest gifts life has to offer, your energy has to flow. You have to trust. You have to sort of be in tune with the flow of life rather than insisting on how you think life should be, how the ego wants life to be, because the ego doesn't know better than God. One example of this I can give you is one of my clients was going through something similar when he started with us, Emil, and I'll pull it up right here. He says, life threw me a test by having a client ask me to refund him the $1,000 he paid for my program because he needed to help his mother out financially. For about 2 days, my mind has been going crazy with shitty, intrusive thoughts of doubt, fear, scarcity, and everything you can think of. This has just led me to centering my attention 24/7, staying focused on the right actions, and surrendering control. What happens? 3 days later, I crush a sales call and get my €1,847 program paid in full. Felt so fucking good. Confirmed becoming 10K a month. He's on track to now making his first $10,000 a month. This all happened because he didn't get fazed by that event, that negative event, or whatever event happened of the client wanting the refund. And who knows? Turns out, could have been that client would have been a tricky client to deal with anyways. But he didn't let that keep him stagnant. He let it happen, the event happened, and he let the energy flow by surrendering control, by centering his attention. The lesson here is anytime you feel like something in your life has been stuck at a certain point, you've been experiencing the same situation again and again, you have to ask yourself, where within me internally is energy stagnant? And if you spend some time in quiet reflection, do this gratitude meditation that I'm going to share with you, you're going to know why. Also going to know how to unstagnate yourself, unstuck yourself by simply having energy move within you. Within the chakric system, if you will, where energy tends to get stuck the most is the anahata, the heart chakra. Okay, so the yogis call this the anahata, the solar plexus, or the heart chakra. And typically that's where you'll feel the strongest feelings of anxiety or fear or doubt, or in your shoulders. You're going to feel your shoulders tense up, your neck tense up when you're stressed. That's where energy gets stuck. Our mission is to have energy flowing at all times, have it be light and flow, because something is trying to find surrender. Your karma is trying to work itself out, but you're blocking it. Have you ever noticed how in Western culture there is such serious emphasis on etiquette? Oh, you should be one way and not another way. It's because in Western culture you're told that this is the right thing to do. You shouldn't express your emotions in public. To express your emotions is to admit weakness. You shouldn't express your emotions at all. And so people keep suppressing their emotions, their feelings, until one day it pents up within them and causes some form of cancer or some other psychosomatic illness that they don't really know how to deal with, and they don't know how it got there. It's because of years of of pent-up energy. And you'll see as people age more and more, their faces get droopy. It's like they're carrying a huge burden on their shoulders. As opposed to looking at people in sort of like the Eastern cultures, they're always looking younger, youthful, happy, healthy, and they just express their emotions. Like whenever they feel like crying, they just let the tears flow. Nothing's holding them back. They're like a child. You know, even though they're in their 50s and 60s, they have this childlike air about them. And that's my greatest wish for you, is to never lose your childlike personality, that thing within you that is childlike, that's always craving adventure. Because if you can keep that up, you know for sure your energy body is perfectly clean and energy is flowing through you. There is no blockages. The key here is anytime you're going through something, a feeling, whatever it is, just like my client Emil, do not run away from your feelings. What do we do when we feel uncomfortable feelings? We immediately try to run away from them by engaging in a compulsive behavior that gives us a dopamine spike, whether this be binge eating or scrolling through social media or watching television, the P word, and other lustful desires. That's our natural impulse to escaping hardship. For me, it used to be eating copious amounts of dessert. Whenever I would go through something tough in the business, in the startup phases of it, I would just eat tons of dessert, like 1,000, 1,500 calories worth of ice cream, cookies, and I didn't even notice I was doing it. I didn't think it was harmful, but I would just feel like crap the next day. I wouldn't have solved my problems. But what I started to do instead was sit with those feelings. What's coming up? Sit quietly with those feelings. There's two parts to this that I really want you to take away from this video, because if you do, I can promise you, even if you get stuck, you're gonna be able to overcome it very, very quickly, because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get stuck. That's just the way life is. We have come to this earth to work out our karma. What's known as our importance levels, something we get attached to, which is what blocks our energy. There is different levels of importance that we have. When importance level is sufficiently low, something we value, our business or something happening, let's say in your business, a client asking for a refund is not a big deal, but you getting sued, something that you've never experienced, or one of your marketing accounts getting completely shut down and your revenue just stops, that leaves you in a panic. Your importance level in the former scenario of one client asking for a refund is not too bad, but in the latter scenario of your marketing accounts getting completely shut down is very, very bad, or getting sued is very, very bad. It leads you to panicking. So we can clearly see from here that there are two different types of importance levels that we have, but there is a critical importance level, I critical. Now, if your importance level is less than I critical, you can somewhat brush things off and just move on and stop dwelling on it. Oh, okay, this client asked for a refund. Oh, okay, you know, my video that I put out didn't get as many views. That's okay, it's not a big deal. I can just brush it off and just focus on what I want. I don't need to dwell on it. You can do that. But when your importance level is greater than I critical, then you need to sit with the feeling. You need to stop what you're doing, and you can't normally live on with your life. Or you have the passing of a loved one and it just leads you into an absolute frenzy. That's the time where it's okay for you to take a pause and say, hey, I really got to deal with this. And then you just take some time off, deal with it. When you don't run away from it, you run through it, you're going to become a lot emptier. You're going to let the thing that wanted to work itself out. It's just like fear. The best way to overcome fear isn't to do some voodoo at home on your couch. No. It's to actually do the thing you're afraid of. Go ahead and do it again and again and again and again until you just almost feel numb to it. It's like, oh, I've done this a million times. I'm not afraid of it anymore. It doesn't affect me as much anymore. I know internally how to deal with it. Speak to myself, or how to control my internal world, my attention, direct my attention properly so that I can get the job done. Now the question arises, what's the difference between something that makes you uncomfortable versus something that truly isn't right for you? The inner resistance that you have. Let's say you have to go out on social media and post, and you feel nervous about that. You lack confidence. But you know it's the right thing to do. You know that posting on social media is the right thing to do. But you confuse this feeling of discomfort with, hey, if I'm feeling so uncomfortable doing this, maybe it's not the right thing to do. That's wrong. There's a fundamental difference between something being uncomfortable because you've never experienced it, it's outside of your comfort zone, and something just not being right for you. To give you an example to exemplify that, let's say in the former scenario, you try to start up a business and you know like, hey, I do want to share my message. The final goal of me sharing my message, having an audience, is something that I really, really resonate with. Great, that's something that I really want, but the path to getting there is uncomfortable. The path to getting to that goal that I have is somewhat uncomfortable, and that's okay. I know that this is the right thing to do. Me going on social media, getting out of my shell, and doing the uncomfortable thing is the right thing to do. When you know it's the right thing to do, but it just feels uncomfortable, you know that that's just you expanding your comfort zone. That's just discomfort. On the other hand, let's say you want to make money, and the idea came to you to rob a bank. Robbing a bank is uncomfortable if you're a good person and you've never done anything illegal before. Let's say you have discomfort, you know deep down that, wait a second, this is just not the right thing to do. You have inner resistance. It's the right thing to do, but you feel uncomfortable, go ahead and do it. those are the things that will make you grow. It's not the right thing to do and you feel uncomfortable, well, just duh, it's just a no-brainer. But if it's not the right thing to do and it's comfortable, no, don't do it. You always got to do the thing that you know deep down in your heart is the right thing to do. Even though it's uncomfortable or comfortable, you know this is the right thing to do. Always consult your heart and do the right thing. But a lot of the times, you don't even know what the right thing to do is because you're not listening to your heart. And that's where this gratitude meditation comes in. So what I would like to do right now, I know you're probably excited for it, and this is a 30-day protocol, so it's not going to be easy. I want you to commit to it, and I want to keep you accountable. So what we're going to do is, first I'm going to list you the steps, but I want you to go to the comment section right now and start a thread, because I would like to know, after every single day of you doing this, at the end of the day, what happened in your life? What were your 3 biggest wins? What were things that were outside of your control, things that you would like to improve on today? Go ahead, go to the comment section right now and write down gratitude meditation protocol accountability. And then you're going to comment on your thread, day 1, day 2, day 3, until day 30, and I would like to see what happens after day 30 as you keep doing this every single day. The goal of this is to get into a habit of feeling the highest form of love. The highest feeling there is, fear versus love. Get into the state of love where things just get accomplished by its own accord without your insistence. And things that you want will happen beyond your wildest dreams if you just trust it. And so what we're gonna do, the first step will be to sit quietly somewhere, put your hands on your anahata, your heart, and step 2, you're going to take 7 deep breaths. You're going to inhale into the chakra, feel it expand and become more and more powerful. And as you exhale, you're going to feel your heart is expanding out into the universe and you're transferring this energy into the world. And then what you're going to do after the 7 deep breaths is, still with your hand on your heart, you're going to feel grateful for a few things in your life. This could be family, this could be friends who did nice things for you, the home you're in, your children, your childhood, anything that you can feel grateful for. You can focus on things that you have, or you can also focus on things that you do not have. I suggest you focus on things you do have and the things you do want. And then the last step will be to think of a goal that you're working towards and feel grateful for its achievement. And imagine your life becoming a continual vacation as it has already been achieved. With that, let's get to the meditation right now. So now I want you to sit somewhere quiet, without distractions. It's going to be roughly around 5 to 10 minutes long. Let's get started. Close your eyes, place your hands on your heart, and let's begin. And this is right at the spot, right beneath your chest, your solar plexus. You could even put your hand on your heart where you feel your heart is. That's completely fine. Take a deep breath. And as you inhale, feel your chest, your heart expand. And as you exhale, relax. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, relax even more. Take another deep breath. Feel yourself relaxing more and more. Exhale. Feel your heart expanding. As you inhale, expand. As you exhale, send it out there. Take another deep breath. Inhale into your heart. Exhale love into the world. One last deep breath. Inhale into your heart. Exhale love into the world. Now I want you to think about something you feel very grateful for. Think about the house you're in. Feel grateful for it. Think about the skies, the birds, the trees outside. Feel grateful. Give thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Feel grateful for the food, the water you drink. Feel grateful for being alive. Give thanks. Feel grateful for the love your mother had for you, your father. Feel grateful for all your family, all your friends who were there for you. Feel grateful for all the people who blessed you in your life so that you could be here today. Thank you. Thank you. Feel the love from your heart expand out to them. Feel your heart grow more and more and get lighter and lighter. Thank you. Thank you. Now I want you to think about a goal that you really want. Something that will make your life a continual vacation, something you're working towards. Imagine it gets achieved effortlessly. Now imagine what life looks like once it has already been achieved. Feel how joyful your life is, how peaceful, how calm. Everything that you've ever wanted has been achieved. You're there with your loved ones. Not a single worry, not a single problem. Only love, only joy. The universe is taking care of everything for you. All of your problems have been solved. All of your prayers have been answered. And it just happened with ease. Life is full of joy, full of ease, full of love. Thank you. Thank you. Stay here for a few more moments. Bask in the glory of your wildest dreams coming to life. The world is a wonderful place. There is enough for everyone. Thank you. Thank you. And on the count of 3, I want you to slowly open your eyes. 3, 2, 1. Slowly open your eyes. You're here. What I want you to do right now is really make a mental commitment to do this for the next 30 days. And you're going to tap into parts of you that you've never tapped into before. Things that you've wanted to happen, problems you've been stuck with, all of a sudden get solved by themselves. It's as simple as that. So go ahead, make that accountability post, and let's begin day 1 today. And I'm excited to see what the next 30 days will hold for you. Thanks.